Hi, bonjour. I'm Michael Raymond James. I play Neal Baelfire in Once Upon a Time, and I'm on FrConventions. Well, the first time I was up there was, a wardrobe fitting, and we had an amazing wardrobe artist on Once Upon a Time, and so that was sort of my first thing. The first thing I shot was actually by myself, and it wasn't on set. It was in New York. We had a splinter unit, and we went to New York, and it was where you kind of find Neal at the beginning of season 2, I believe. And we just so walking around New York City with a camera. We didn't even have a crew. It was just me and the director, and he was shooting me, and walking through the park and in the subway. Ralph Hemmicker was the director, who directed a bunch of episodes. So that was kind of my first introduction, was kind of apart from the whole group, but it was great. It's an interesting question, and obviously one that you would need Adam and Eddie to answer, but for me, it seems like his life would have turned out much different if he had had the chance to grow up with a father, because I think that moment shaped so much of his journey, feeling abandoned and let go, and that his dad was a coward, who really wasn't, was just doing the best that he could. But yeah, it's a very interesting question. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen what that Baelfire turned into. Having grown up around people who, a lot of my friends growing up who didn't know their fathers or had very limited relationship with their fathers, I think it's something that never goes away. Even if the hope is lost, there's the scar, and the pain of that. That's just not something that that you get rid of. It just kind of becomes a part of you. I love Bobby Carlyle. In fact, that was one of the things when they offered me this job, and I went to have a meeting with Adam and Eddie, and they were pitching me the story, the idea, and the kid is your kid, but you didn't know you had a son, and blah blah. And there was this picture of Robert as Rumpelstiltskin on a poster, and they said, and that's your dad. And so I was like, I'm in. Like, just getting the chance to work with Bobby and get to know him and become friends with Bobby was just amazing. I would act in anything with Robert Carlyle. He's brilliant, and getting an opportunity to step on a set, have a camera and the marks, and go head to head with Robert Carlyle was just an absolute dream, and he didn't disappoint. He's such a great guy. I don't think he regretted his choice, because I don't think he had a choice. To him, it wasn't a choice. It was only this thing to do. I think if there's any regrets, it is probably over the way he communicated it or didn't communicate it, but again, I don't think it would have been something that he made that choice because Emma wouldn't have understood, and she would have wanted to go and do the thing, and so it was, you know, I think he starts to understand his father a little bit more because of that moment, you know. Easy. It was one of the easiest jobs I've ever had as far as that goes. Building chemistry with Jen was, day one, we just had it, you know. We made instant friends, and she was the veteran of the show. She was, you know, did the whole first season. I come on the second season, and so she really, you know, was so incredibly warm and welcoming. And you know, as an actor, I like to play. You know, I mean, that's what it's called, right? You know what I mean? And I like to play, and Jen's the same way. And so, you know, it was the same with Colin as well, where when we're in a scene together, all I want to do is make you giggle. You know what I mean? And so we have very serious conversations sometimes, but if I'm making you giggle, there's like a twinkle in somebody's eye. And it's great. So it was a lot of fun. Chemistry was never an issue. Day one, we had it. I think, you know, Baelfire, Neal, you know, made a promise to himself that he, you know, if he ever became a father, he would always be there for his child. You know, he would never abandon them. And then to discover, you know, what he discovers that it happened, and you didn't know about it. I mean, that's kind of a terrifying realization, you know. And I think from that moment on, Neal's sole focus was to repair, you know, and have a relationship with his son. Great. I mean, I've died a lot in a lot of things, you know, and it isn't always as heroic a death. It was more of a sacrifice than anything, you know, that came from love, you know, and as an actor, I haven't had a chance to do a lot of that. I'm usually getting shot in a car, you know, explosion of some sort. So that was, I loved it. I loved it. It was really nice. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I would have to give it some thought. I mean, if I got a chance to work with my friends again, you know, Bobby and Jen and Colin and Sean McGuire and, you know, and everybody, then the answer would most likely be yes, but you know, I'd give it some thought for sure.